I came home earlier than expected that Tuesday. If I had stayed at work another 20 minutes. If I had stopped for groceries like I usually did. If traffic hadn't cleared after the rain. Maybe I never would have seen what was waiting for me. Maybe I would have stayed married a little longer. My name is Claire Dawson. I'm 46 years old, and until that afternoon, I believed my husband and I had built a life that couldn't be broken. We had been married for 22 years. We weren't perfect. No marriages. But I trusted him. Or maybe I trusted the version of him I'd created in my own mind. The rain had stopped just before I pulled into our driveway. Everything looked normal. Mark's truck wasn't there. That wasn't unusual. He owned a commercial roofing company and often worked late. I unlocked the front door and stepped inside. The house was silent. No television. No music. No footsteps upstairs. Just the soft hum of the refrigerator. I remember thinking how peaceful everything felt. That feeling lasted less than 30 seconds. I walked into the kitchen and noticed something strange. Mark's laptop sat open on the island. He never left it there. Never. He treated that laptop like it held government secrets. If he left the room for 2 minutes, he'd close it. Lock it. Take it with him. Today. It was sitting there. The screen hadn't gone to sleep yet. I wasn't trying to snoop. At least that's what I told myself. I only wanted to close it before the battery died. Then I saw the message. It wasn't an email. It wasn't a text. It was an online chat window. One sentence. That's all it took. She's home later than usual tomorrow. We'll have enough time. I stared at those words. My brain refused to understand them. Then I looked at the name above the message. It wasn't saved as a real name. Just one letter. Below it, Mark had replied. Perfect. She suspects nothing. My hands went cold. I read it again. And again. Maybe it meant business. Maybe they were planning a surprise. Maybe. I knew I was lying to myself. There were older messages. I clicked. The conversation scrolled upward. Hotel reservations. Private jokes. Photos. One picture stopped me completely. Mark. Standing beside a woman whose face had been cropped out. His arm wrapped around someone who definitely wasn't me. The timestamp. 3 weeks ago. The same weekend he told me he was attending a roofing convention in Chicago. I couldn't breathe. I didn't cry. Not yet. I said. I looked at the kitchen clock. 3:42 p.m. He wouldn't be home for at least 2 hours. Maybe longer. For the first time in my life. I opened every folder on his laptop. Invoices. Contracts. Business taxes. Then, a folder named Projects. Inside it, another folder. Future. That name made absolutely no sense. I clicked. There were PDFs. Property listings. Mortgage estimates. Furniture catalogs. Photos of a lake house. Every file had been created during the last 6 months. Then I opened one document. My stomach dropped. It wasn't a property brochure. It was a moving checklist. Kitchen. Bedroom. Garage. Office. Every room had handwritten notes. Some items were highlighted. Some had check marks. Near the bottom. One sentence. Claire keeps the house. Too expensive to fight. I blinked. There it was. My name. Typed like I was a problem someone had already solved. Not a wife. Not a partner. Just an obstacle. I sat down without realizing it. The chair scraped loudly across the hardwood floor. The sound echoed through the empty kitchen. I kept reading. Another page. Budget estimates. Apartment deposits. Utility transfers. Vacation expenses. Every number was carefully planned. Every dollar calculated. My husband wasn't thinking about leaving. He had already left. He just hadn't bothered telling me yet. Then something else caught my attention. A spreadsheet. Rows. Columns. Dates. Payments. One column read. Joint savings transfer. I frowned. We hadn't moved money recently. At least. Not that I remembered. The amounts weren't huge. $500. $900. $1,200. Random. Easy to ignore. But together. Almost $34,000. Transferred over 8 months. Always on Friday afternoons. Always labeled as business reimbursements. Except, our savings account wasn't a business account. I opened our online banking app. Password accepted. Balance loaded. My heart sank. The money was gone. Every transfer matched the spreadsheet. Every single one. I checked the destination account. The account number ended in 8821. I had never seen it before. I searched through old statements. Nothing. I searched tax files. Nothing. It didn't belong to us. Whoever owned account 8821 had quietly received nearly $34,000 of our savings. The front doorbell suddenly rang. I jumped. My heart slammed against my ribs. 3:58 p.m. Too early. Mark never came home this early. I walked toward the front door. Fully. I looked through the peephole. A woman stood outside. Mid-40s. Elegant. Dark green coat. Holding a small white gift bag. He smiled. Until she saw me. The smile disappeared instantly. For nearly 5 seconds. Neither of us spoke. Finally she asked. Is Mark home? I didn't answer. I said. I looked at the gift bag. I said. I could see the corner of a champagne bottle. My voice stayed calm. No. She hesitated. Oh. I must have gotten the wrong day. Wrong day. Interesting choice of words. She turned quickly and walked back toward a silver Lexus parked across the street. Before climbing inside, she checked her phone. Seconds later, Mark's laptop chimed behind me. A new message appeared on the screen. I ran back into the kitchen. The chat window was still open. One new message. From A. Your wife answered the door. 3 dots appeared. Mark was typing. I stared at the blinking cursor, knowing that whatever he wrote next would change everything. I watched the 3 blinking dots on the screen. They disappeared. Then came the reply. Leave. I'll handle it. That was it. No panic. No explanation. Just confidence. The kind of confidence that only comes from someone who believes they're still in control. I closed the laptop exactly as I'd found it. My hands were steady now. Not because I was okay. Because something inside me had changed. I wasn't trying to save my marriage anymore. I was trying to understand it. At 6:17 p.m., I heard Mark's truck pull into the driveway. The garage door rumbled open. His footsteps crossed the concrete floor. Then the familiar jingle of his keys. He walked into the kitchen carrying takeout from my favorite Italian restaurant. Hey, he said with an easy smile. Thought I'd surprise you. I looked at the bag. Chicken parmesan. Garlic bread. A bottle of sparkling water. Everything I usually ordered. 6 hours earlier I would have called him thoughtful. Now it looked like evidence. You got home early? He asked. The meeting was cancelled. Oh. Only one word. But his eyes gave him away. For half a second. He looked disappointed. Not surprised. Disappointed. As if my early arrival had ruined something important. During dinner he talked about work. A difficult client. Bad weather. A supplier who kept delaying deliveries. Normally I would have listened. Tonight I counted how many times he looked at his phone. 7. Every time the screen lit up he flipped it face down. Every single time. When dinner ended he carried the plates to the sink. I've got an early appointment tomorrow, he said. I'll probably leave before sunrise. I smiled. Okay. Inside I already knew that wasn't true. That night I waited. At exactly 11:43 p.m. he slipped quietly out of bed. I kept my breathing slow. He thought I was asleep. I heard the bedroom door close. Soft footsteps moved downstairs. Then, the back door opened. Closed. I counted to 30 before getting up. I walked to the upstairs window overlooking the backyard. Mark stood near the fence. His phone pressed against his ear. The porch light barely reached him. I couldn't hear every word. Only fragments. Tomorrow. She doesn't know. Lawyer. My stomach tightened. Lawyer? Why would he need a lawyer? Unless this had been planned much longer than I imagined. The next morning he left at 5:15. The moment his truck disappeared I went straight to his home office. He always kept it locked. Today, he'd forgotten. Inside everything looked perfectly organized. Shelves. Blueprints. Boards. Family photos. The office of a man everyone trusted. I searched carefully. Nothing. 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 Then I noticed a loose floor vent beneath his desk. It had fresh scratches around the screws. Someone had removed it recently. I grabbed a screwdriver from the garage. 5 minutes later, the vent came off. A black fireproof document bag. My heartbeat slowed. I unzipped it. The first document was a life insurance policy. $2 million. My name. Mark listed as the primary beneficiary. I frowned. We'd purchased that policy years ago. Why hide it? Then I found the updated paperwork. Someone had increased the coverage. Just 4 months ago. Without ever mentioning it to me. Beneath it was another folder. Property contracts. A rental agreement. Bank statements. And one document that made my blood run cold. A private investigator's report. My name appeared across the top. Someone had been following me. Photographing me. Recording where I went. What time I left work. Which grocery store I visited. Even how long I stayed at my mother's grave every Sunday. The report ended with one sentence. Subject follows the same routine every week. I stared at the page. This wasn't just an affair anymore. Someone had been studying my life. Planning around it. Then my phone rang. The caller ID displayed an unknown number. I answered cautiously. Claire Dawson. Yes. My name is Daniel Mercer. I'm an attorney. I believe you need to know something about your husband before he files for divorce. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then he said the one sentence I never expected to hear. You're not the first woman he's done this to. Daniel Mercer didn't waste time. I represented a woman named Angela Brooks 6 years ago, he said. She was engaged to your husband before you met him. I gripped the phone tighter. Excuse me. He never told you about her, did he? No. Daniel sighed. I didn't think so. He explained that Angela had discovered thousands of dollars missing from her savings shortly before their wedding. When she confronted Mark, he disappeared. No marriage. No explanation. Just gone. There wasn't enough evidence to pursue criminal charges, Daniel continued. But after seeing your name connected to his recent business filings, I felt obligated to call. For the first time in 2 days. I wasn't thinking about revenge. I was thinking about survival. An hour later, I sat across from Daniel in his downtown office. The walls were lined with legal books. Everything smelled like old paper and fresh coffee. He slid a thin folder across the desk. Inside were copies of public records. Business registrations. Property transfers. Old lawsuits. One document caught my eye. A company called Northridge Holdings LLC. Mark Dawson. Manager. Alyssa Grant. The woman from my front porch. So, A finally had a name. Daniel looked at me carefully. Claire. I don't think your husband is planning a divorce. I frowned. What do you mean? I think he's planning to leave before you even know you're being left. That sentence stayed with me the entire drive home. When I pulled into the driveway, Mark's truck was already there. He met me at the front door. You've been out. I went shopping. He smiled. Good. Then he handed me an envelope. I've been meaning to talk. Inside were divorce papers. Prepared. Signed by him. Waiting only for my signature. He acted as though this was a business transaction. I think this is best for both of us. I looked into his eyes. Not a trace of guilt. Only confidence. He thought he had already won. I folded the papers neatly. I'll think about it. His shoulders relaxed. Exactly what I wanted. That evening I called Daniel. They're ready. So are we, he replied. The next morning, instead of signing anything, we filed first. Emergency financial protection. Asset preservation. Temporary restraining orders preventing the sale of marital property. Every account connected to Northridge Holdings was frozen pending investigation. By noon, Mark's phone started ringing non-stop. Banks. Lawyers. Business partners. He locked himself inside his office. For the first time, he looked nervous. At 4:30 that afternoon, someone knocked on my front door. It was Alyssa. She wasn't wearing designer clothes anymore. No smile. No confidence. She looked exhausted. We need to talk. I don't think we do. You don't understand. No. I replied calmly. I finally do. She looked down. Mark lied to me too. That caught me off guard. She explained that he'd promised everything would be finalized months ago. He claimed I already knew. That we'd agreed to separate peacefully. I said, He'd been lying to both of us. She reached into her purse. I brought something. A flash drive. I copied everything from his office. Emails. Contracts. Hidden accounts. Recorded phone calls. He told me to delete them. I couldn't. I accepted the drive without another word. 2 weeks later, Daniel called. You need to come to the courthouse. When I arrived, federal investigators were already inside. The hidden transfers weren't just family money. Mark had been moving funds through fake consulting invoices for years. Several clients had unknowingly paid into shell companies. The investigation quickly expanded. This was no longer just a divorce case. It was financial fraud. Mark saw me across the hallway. His expensive suit looked wrinkled. His confidence was gone. Claire. I can explain. I stopped walking. No. You've had years to explain. You chose to lie instead. He lowered his eyes. For what it's worth. I never wanted this. I looked at him for a long moment. Then I answered quietly. Neither did I. But only one of us planned it. 6 months later, the divorce was final. The house remained mine. The court awarded me compensation for the money he'd secretly transferred. Northridge Holdings was dissolved. Several criminal charges followed after investigators completed their audit. As for Alyssa, he testified. Not for Mark. Against him. People often ask whether I ever forgave him. The truth? Forgiveness wasn't what set me free. The truth did. Because the day I came home earlier than expected, I thought I'd lost everything. I said, I found the one thing I should never have lost in the first place. Myself.